This is Personal Injury Court.
Good day, everyone. This is the matter of Anderson versus Brown. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, it's my understanding that you are suing the Browns for injuries that Mrs. Anderson sustained when riding their mechanical bull. You're asking this court to award you $33,000 for your medical bills, $20,000 for your future medical bills, $250,000 for pain and suffering, for a total of $303,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. and Mrs. Brown, you all believe a mechanical bull is what it is. People ride, they fall off. This did what it was supposed to do. And if she's injured, that's just something she took into account. It's not your fault.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let's get into the legal sauce. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, what would make a married couple want to ride a bull?
You know, we're a very fun couple. We like to go out and have date night every Wednesday. And so on Wednesdays, we'll go to the carnival. And when we're at the carnival, we will, eat cotton candy, candy apples. We ride
I used to love that as a kid.
There's also a mechanical bull there. And my husband, he thinks he's a professional, Your Honor. Every time he sees that bull, he wants to jump up there and ride. I'm afraid of the bull, but I'm not afraid of the roller coaster. So that's my thing.
But you don't get next to that bull.
I don't get next to that bull.
Well, how in the world do you get your wife to want to ride a bull?
Your Honor, it took a lot of, baby, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. But I'm a great motivator, Your Honor.
Now, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, how long have y'all operated a mechanical bull? How long have you had this bull?
15 years now. Been married for 7. And we are very proud of Buddy. Buddy's our best bull. He's our favorite
Buddy's
bull.
the bull.
Buddy's the bull.
What made you all start a mechanical bull company?
Well, that was him. It was all part of his family. We both grew up on a farm, so I definitely enjoyed horses. He was more of the bull side of it. We specifically bought Buddy before we got married, so he's basically our good luck charm.
So you're standing at the bull. This is going to be a first time, right?
It's my first time.
You finally decided, I'm going to do this.
I said, YOLO.
You first get on. Now tell me what's happening.
So when I first got on the bull, Your Honor, I grabbed onto the handle that you see there. I thought that they were going to start it at a beginner stage.
Okay.
But when I got on that thing, they immediately started turning the bull. All of a sudden, it started going faster and faster. I started screaming. I'm like, help, somebody help me, because I've never seen it go that fast, Your Honor. And so I'm thinking they're going to stop the bull. But instead, one of their operators jumped on to the back of the bull with me. And I'm trying to hold on. The thing is spinning around, and I fell. I fell on my left shoulder, Your Honor, and I felt it crack. I've had an 8-pound baby, and I never felt the pain that I felt when I fell on my shoulder.
That's a lot of pain.
That I ended up spraining my left leg as well as breaking my shoulder.
Mr. and Mrs. Brown, you don't take any responsibility for this.
Anyone that gets on this bull has a clear understanding of what's going on. It's really quite simple and elementary. You get on and you fall off. That's what the mats are for.
It's a mechanical bull.
It happened before. And there's warning signs posted everywhere.
So you don't think you're responsible for this?
We're not responsible for this, Your Honor. In the time that we have run. We are not responsible.
Well, you're actually shooting this on your phone, right?
I'm actually looking at me and my daughter, we're standing side by side, and I have my camera phone up, so I'm videotaping the whole scenario.
And you all submitted that video to this court.
Yes, we did, Your Honor.
Let's take a look at it. Miss Anderson, I heard you on that tape. You knew you were hurt pretty bad right away, didn't you?
Yes, Your Honor.
She knew the risk.
There was no vicinity at all.
And she knew the risk of what was going on. She's seen this happen before and was finally taking part in something that her husband's taking part in.
Have y'all ever had anybody get hurt on your bull, on Buddy?
All the time, people get on and get
it.
knocked off, and you're gonna get sprained because you understand it's at your own risk.
Have you ever had another person on there?
That's a good question. Your Honor, our trained professionals understand there should be only one person on the bull at a time.
So this person behind Miss Anderson is one of your guys?
Yeah, that was his guy. I was yelling for help, Your Honor, and I thought when I yelled for help that they were going to turn the bull off. I didn't know that this guy was going to come jumping out of nowhere, jumping onto the back of the bull. He put his hands where my hands were initially, and so I didn't even really have something to hold on to. I'm trying to hold on to him.
So you're not even able to hold on?
No, I'm not able to hold on, and then they started spinning it faster.
So, Mr. Brown, Mrs. Brown, why was your employee on the bull with Miss Anderson?
This video does not show clearly that she was asking for help, and the only reason our trained employee was
Look what
there
you did to my
because
wife.
she was
Look what you
asking
did
for
to my
help,
wife.
And we were being nice to allow her to ride the bull.
Your Honor, this is
So
not
you were trying to help
This is
her.
not
I
normal.
want to take
That was
part
actually
in what
an
Buddy's got to
operator.
offer.
Folks, we got to have order in this courtroom. I need to hear so I can make a decision. Mr. and Mrs. Brown, you all were trying to help her by putting
Look what
someone
you did to my wife.
That's what they show.
Mr. Anderson,
show is that
I know this
they
is
were
important
asking
to
for
you,
help.
but give me a break. Let me handle this, okay? It's okay. So your employee's on the back. This is what you wanted him to
He
do.
was trying to help her. She was
Okay.
asking
He was
for
not
help.
trying to help me.
And that's the only reason a trained professional would be on there. Only one person is allowed at a time, and they understand that.
Okay?
It is-
Have you,
It is-
Mr. Anderson, have you ever been on a bull where there was someone behind you helping you?
Never. No one ever has anybody extra on the bull. The problem with this scenario right here is they were starting too fast, too soon for a beginner rider. They know she doesn't ride the bull all the time. Not until somebody jumped on the bull with my wife and extra pressure to the bull, they turning the bull up higher and higher and higher. Only then it caused an accident to my wife.
Mr. and Mrs. Brown, was this bull going fast?
It
This
wasn't.
bull runs at the same intermediate speed for all beginners.
No,
it doesn't
it
matter if
doesn't.
you're experienced or not. We always started at the same time.
Well,
And
I
that's
want
why,
to
as
see
you
how
can see,
fast this bull goes.
We wanted to set up a
Are you able to
demonstration.
start it up?
See. We wanted to go ahead and show you how Buddy runs.
Okay, so Buddy's
That-
doing this when someone's riding.
That's an intermediate, beginner level. Everybody starts on that level, sir. It's understood. And she's seen it enough times to
Now,
know that.
speed it up. Let me see how it looks
not the
when it
level
goes
of that
fast.
one. wife.
Yeah, show him the
That's not
level
the
you
level.
had it on when I was on
This is
there.
just for
Show me
experience.
the higher
Wait,
speed.
no,
Upon
show
knowing
him
it's
the level
experienced
where I
rider.
was on there.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
Hey.
She started.
That's how I started.
That's how she started,
That's
John.
how
Come on.
I
All right, so
started.
hold on. You all acknowledge that very few people can stay safely on the bull at that speed.
Right.
Right?
No, they can stay safe. The point is to get on the bull and then you get off. There's always safety. There's
Well,
always mats.
Falling's
You
part
get
of
on
the
and you fall
fun.
out.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that. We clearly have signs everywhere. As you can see in the video, it's posted you could not possibly get on this bull without seeing at least one
I do
sign
see
says
that
you will
sign.
ride at your own risk.
So Miss Anderson,
self-explain
did you
for it.
see that
I
sign?
did see the sign, Your Honor. I did. And I understood that I was taking a risk when I got on it. However, they created a greater risk whenever
Yes.
they put their operator on the back of the ride.
But you knew you would fall.
I knew that I would fall.
That's how it's supposed to turn
I
out.
watched it 100 times. It's not something that I didn't know was going to happen.
How much
what
more
I
difficult
didn't
are you gonna
know
make it if you're
was
gonna
that
fall
someone
off?
else was going to
You
get
get
on
on,
the
you
back
fall
of
off.
it
It's as
and
simple
cause
as
me to
that.
fall. No, your operator
Folks.
caused me to fall.
You're gonna make me come out my skin. You gotta talk to me. There's not a person in this courtroom that looks at a mechanical bull and thinks that someone stays on. Isn't that part of the fun, Mr. Anderson?
That is all part of the fun. She knew she was going to fall, and that's okay. We don't have
is
a
why I was
problem with that,
afraid.
Your Honor.
Mr. Anderson, tell me the impact of these injuries on your family.
My wife is in a cast right now. She can't go to the bathroom. She can't change her clothes. She can't do any of the normal things that a person would be able to do. All that stuff that she used to do, I have to do it for her.
Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, I see that you all submitted $33,000 for past medical bills.
Yes.
That's got to weigh pretty heavy on your family.
Yes.
Yes.
And you all are seeking $20,000 for future medical.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have a bunch of screws and bolts and stuff in my arm. I still have to have an additional surgery, not to mention the physical therapy that I'm gonna have to continue to go to. I go to therapy 3-4 times a week.
So, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, you don't think you're responsible for this?
We feel sorry and we have empathy for this situation.
And you need to
But
pay me my money.
But she knew that there was a risk
There ain't gonna
of
be
her
no
falling off.
money.
You should not have gotten on the bull. There
No,
were
you need to pay
signs.
me my money.
You knew that there was a risk. You should not have gotten on the bull.
You
if
should
were
not have had your rider get on the back of the bull.
Folks,
There ain't gonna be no
Folks.
text cash today, madam. I'll
Well,
tell
we'll
you that
let the
much.
judge
You
decide.
need to take responsibility.
there's
for
going to
your
be
own-
order in this courtroom.
You need to pay me my money.
Miss Anderson, Mr. Brown, I need order in my court. Address your comments to me. You see my head is sweating. Folks, to better understand the nature of your injuries, this court has consulted Dr. Jamila Gator. Sheriff, will you retrieve Dr. Gator from the hallway?
Yes, Your Honor.
Hello, doctor.
Hello.
Come on in, make yourself comfortable, please. Dr. Gator, can you explain Miss Anderson's injuries?
Yes, Your Honor. She was diagnosed with a displaced clavicle fracture. We describe it as displaced because the two ends of the bone are actually separated. Surgery is definitely required. And so here you see there's actually a plate fixation where a plate is placed on top of the bone and screws are actually drilled into the bone.
So how long is the recovery on this?
Definitely weeks and weeks of physical therapy and strengthening. And so then many months later, the hardware after the bone is healed is taken out in that case.
What do you estimate her future medical costs to be?
If she has to have a future surgery, it could be as high as $20,000. Wow.
Jeez.
Thank you, doctor. You are released.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Thank
you. You may step down.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brown, you don't seem like you really have a heart on this thing. I'm a little bothered by that.
Don't care.
There
He
is
does
no
not care.
validity to this case, Your Honor. We have a legal document that was signed by Ms. Anderson indemnifying us of any legal recourse or
Okay.
damage upon being hurt on this ride, Your Honor.
Sheriff Matt, if you'll
And
retrieve
everybody
that document.
has to understand and sign one of these legal documents before they're allowed to take part in this activity, sir. As you can see, it's signed.
Okay, so you signed a waiver. You all remember signing a waiver, right?
I did, Your Honor. I
Okay,
did sign it.
the pertinent part reads, release of liability. Number one, I acknowledge that riding a mechanical bull entails risks that could result in physical or emotional injury, paralysis, death, injury, or damage to me. That me being you, Miss Anderson. Is that your signature on this document?
Yes, Your Honor, that is my signature.
Well, did you read it before you signed it?
No, Your Honor, I'll be honest, I didn't read it.
Let me give you a legal lesson. Whenever you sign a legal document, the law presumes that you've read it before you sign it. Now, you have to have ample time to read it, but when you get ample time to read it, whether you read it or not, if you sign it like you did, you gotta live by it. You expect them to live by this waiver. You all plan to live by the waiver too, right?
Exactly.
Of course.
So you all see that when you sign a document like this with that kind of language, you relieve them of all responsibility. Do you understand that?
I understand that, Your Honor, but
Regardless of how badly you're injured, because the law says when you say they're not responsible, you take on the consequences, whatever happens, even if it's this bad.
Your Honor, but what about
Your Honor.
the fact that, you know, just like they have that says ride at your own risk, what about the fact that it's supposed to be one rider at a time, Your Honor?
Well, you all have a rule, one rider at a time.
One
We
rider
do,
at a time.
and there was one rider.
These
in the
bills
beginning.
are killing me, Your Honor.
So let me look at this waiver. Because every business ought to have one of these, especially when people can get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You all put a lot of detail in this, and that's a good thing. And you all stand by this waiver.
Yes.
Okay, I think I've seen enough. I'm ready to render my decision.
Good. We're glad to hear it.
Folks, in every personal injury case, the plaintiffs, the injured party, must prove that the defendant did something wrong and that their wrong caused your injuries. Here you all have put up evidence that you went to this carnival to ride Buddy. You all did not expect that you'd have this horrible injury, crushing medical bills, and your life change for you and your family.
Yes, That's
Right.
Mr. and Mrs. Brown, you all expected that Miss Anderson would be like everybody else. One, understand that you get on a bull, you fall off.
Most certainly.
That's the idea. It's a mechanical
certainly.
bull. You also had her sign a waiver before she got on the bull. We saw her signature. You thought it was clear she's responsible for her own injuries. This waiver is a legal contract between you all. Both of you have to live by it. The evidentiary crown jewel in this case is this release of liability, the waiver. In looking at it, you all were very thorough. You've put everything in here to protect you and to protect the people that ride Buddy. You were very responsible as business owners. You had safety rules. Your safety rules are even included in the waiver. I noticed in looking at it that one of your safety rules is one rider at a time, because that keeps the rider safe. Here, though,
was asking for help.
you set that rule and you broke it by putting your own employee on.
She asked for
No,
help.
she was asking for
And
help,
therefore,
Your Honor.
the
She
waiver
was
does
asking
not
for us to
protect
help
you.
her.
It is your waiver, your rule, and you're breaking that rule. And in that regard, I find in favor of the plaintiffs, and I am going to award you $33,000 for your past medical bills, $20,000 for your future medical bills, $250,000 for pain and suffering, for a total award of $303,000 in favor of the plaintiffs. That's my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned. Mr. and Mrs. Richardson, it's my understanding that you all are suing Mr. Hickman for injury, severe shoulder injury that you sustained when you slipped on peanuts at his restaurant. You're asking this court to award you $125,000 for medical expenses, $200,000 for pain and suffering, and a total award of $325,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Hickman, you believe she slipped on peanuts that were there. She should have known they were there, and it's not your fault, right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, well, let's get into the legal sauce. Why did y'all choose this restaurant?
Well, Your Honor, I retired after 30 years in the school system.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So 30 years, thank you. So after 30 years being with children, I was finally glad to be over with the school system, so I decided to have a retirement party. I was gonna invite some friends and family and co-workers to this place, and I chose this restaurant because it was a little on the casual side, and some of my friends are not very upscale, you know, they like a little casual atmosphere.
Now, folks have different kinds of retirement parties. In fact, the sheriffs that used to take care of me many years ago, when these older gentlemen and women would have a party, some of them would have the fun party, some of them would have the formal sit-down.
Right.
Which one was yours? Was it
Mine
fun
was
or
a
formal?
fun party because I had some diversified friends, so I figured, let's go to this restaurant. I heard the food was great, but when I walked in and looked at it, you know, there was a few peanut shells. I just thought they didn't sweep up that day.
So peanut shells on the floor, Mr. Hickman, is that what happens at your place?
Yeah, it's a staple of our place. It's part of the fun atmosphere that we have. It's you know, my restaurant, and my dad gave it to me. In 16 years, we've always had peanut shells on the ground. It's just a fun thing where the patrons eat the peanuts and then throw the shells.
So they eat the peanuts and then they throw them on the floor. Now, what
Correct.
happens with the shells?
The shells are just on the ground and we walk on them, but it's just part of the country theme.
So it's part of the shtick of your restaurant.
Correct.
And I imagine it's pretty popular. That's kind of novel.
People come just for that. And I also have 790 positive reviews you can see here.
Sheriff Matt, if you'll get those reviews for me.
790
I want to take a peek at them.
reviews, I'm proud to say.
Let's see
People
what
from
the
all
folks
ages, all ages.
what the
you know.
folks say here. Well, you got one here that says, only house where throwing stuff on the floor won't get you grounded. Then another one says, be a boss, crack, eat, toss. Sounds like a fun place.
What we do.
And then the final one says, real cowboys drop their nuts on the floor. I'm gonna stop reading these right now, okay? But you got a fun place. People come there to have fun.
Absolutely, it's a packed crowd every night of the week.
And part of the fun is throwing these nuts on the floor, drinking beer, just kind of real laid
Having a
back.
great time. It adds to the country atmosphere.
And that's what you all had anticipated the retirement party would be, right?
Well, I didn't anticipate it to be that much peanuts on the floor. When I went to tour the place, it was only a few shells on the floor.
So you didn't know that people throw
No, I did
shells
not.
on the floor?
I did not.
Look at
That's-
this. This is
that
the
was
shot
at
of
my-
the floor in the restaurant.
At my party, right. That wasn't like that the day I went on a tour.
Well, y'all must have had either a lot of elephants or a lot of people that like peanuts.
It was a
'cause
lot of peanuts,
That's a
right.
lot of peanuts. So tell me how you got injured.
So
not true.
We're having fun, we're drinking, we're eating, and I didn't know that the restaurant was known for the nuts. I thought it was known for the food. So we're eating, having a good time, we're laughing and drinking. So one of his waitresses walks over to me and said, well, you're retired. Why don't you start a conga line? You know, I'm a party
I
person.
love 'em.
I like to dance, which, as you can see there, I'm a dancer. So I love dancing. I had no problem with dancing, so I got up. As soon
Now,
as
those can get pretty rowdy, right?
As soon as I stepped on the
depending on how
floor.
much beer you've had, you know?
Well, I didn't have any beer.
Okay.
So as soon as I stepped on the floor, bam. I mean, I fell and bust my behind. I started screaming, crying. I felt my leg was broken, my hip, I couldn't move. My husband's trying to comfort me, and I'm like, get off me. I mean, I'm just hysterical because I'm embarrassed, first of all.
So you saw this, Mr. Richardson?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Yes, sir.
embarrassed, I'm in pain. The only thing I didn't hit was my head, which I'm glad.
So, Mr. Hickman, this conga line, your waitresses and waiters having a good time with the patrons. Is that what you expect them to do?
Yeah, I mean, they come around, and if people are having a good time, they tell them to get up and get in the conga line. It's just part of our fun atmosphere.
So you've seen conga lines in your place before?
Absolutely, and we've never had an incident.
How'd you know that Miss Richardson was hurt?
Well, I was working the register, and I heard this shrieking scream. I turned around, and my waitress was running over to her. I saw that it was her on the ground, and I called 911 as soon as I could to get her help.
Did you know how she got down there to the floor?
No, I just heard a scream, and we just wanted to help
You
her.
should have came over to me. You're the owner.
I was on the phone with 911. So I had to talk to them for a while, so I couldn't run over
You had a
and
cordless
be
phone.
your
You coulda
aide
came over
because
to
I'm
me.
on the phone
Yes, you
with
coulda-
your help.
Everybody
What did
has
you-
a cell phone.
I have
You
a
coulda
heart.
came-
Miss Richardson.
You could have came to me.
Address your comments to me. Let me get to this thing. I know this is important to you.
I'm just
You all rigged up there. I understand.
Peanuts are a staple of our restaurant, okay? People go nuts for our nuts. That's our slogan.
You see shells all over the floor. The conga line starts, and that's
And I
when
hit the
disaster
floor.
begins.
And not only did I fall, when I fell, I'm down on the floor and I see not only are there shells on the floor, there's nuts down there too.
Okay.
Do you know what peanut oil can do to the floor? It makes things very
That's
greasy.
what you came for.
I didn't
That's
come
what
for the nuts.
Mr.
I came
Hickman,
for the food.
Mr. Hickman, how is it that peanuts get on the floor? Aren't people supposed to eat the meat and throw the shells on the floor?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
is
so
there-
the shells are on the ground, not the peanuts.
Peanuts on the ground.
the peanuts being on the floor creates at least a
Oil.
different picture, right?
Yes.
Yes, but usually it's shells, it's not peanuts. So
Well,
it's not that much oil.
Somebody comes into your
after-
restaurant, they fall, they get hurt. How's it not your fault? It's your place.
Thank
your
you.
nuts, your shells.
She knew the risks before coming there. She toured the place and said she wanted to book it there.
But it wasn't that
so
many
she
nuts
was
on the
satisfied.
floor.
I thought, great, another happy
No.
customer. She even remarked, Your Honor, when she came and toured the restaurant, she remarked how much she
This is
loved the place and
this
how
is
much her
before the
friends.
party.
Correct, and how much her friends were going to love it too.
Right, because it was a
okay.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Did the floor look like that?
No.
She came during lunch. It wasn't
No.
as bad as that.
No.
Okay.
See,
There were
thank you.
clearly there were shells, discarded shells on the ground. Make
Had
sure
I
it's a safe
known it was
walkway.
going to be like that, I would have worn different shoes.
Now,
What? People go nuts for our nuts? What did you think that meant?
Well,
That
what
they
did
just like
Miss-
nuts.
Miss Richardson?
They like crazy people. I knew they
Who
were.
wears open-toed shoes? Why not
Mr. Hickman,
flats?
Mr.
It
Hickman,
didn't match my outfit. Come on.
order in this court.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Order in this court.
Sorry, Your Honor.
You guys got to talk to me.
I'm sorry, Your
If
Honor.
you want her to make the decision, keep talking to her. I got to figure this out.
Okay.
Okay?
Sorry, Your Honor.
So you slip
Right, I slipped
and
on
you
some
hit the
nuts.
floor. When did
Broke
you
my
know
hip.
that your shoulder was badly hurt?
Not only my shoulder, I have a broken hip. So my whole life has changed. I retired after 30 years. My husband and I have
So
plans
you
to
hurt your
travel.
hip?
I have a broken
You hurt
hip.
your shoulder?
My shoulder, my knee.
Your
the only thing
knee?
that didn't hurt was my head.
And you got $125,000 in past medical expenses.
Yes, because my husband has to take me to physical therapy every other day. I'm retired. I was supposed to travel.
Yes, ma'am.
We have no quality of life anymore.
I see from your medicals that you tore your rotator cuff.
Yes.
Okay, how's that been?
It's not good. As you can see, as from my pictures, I was a traveler. I ride
Is that
elephants.
you on an
That's me
elephant?
on an elephant, yes. Which
Okay.
I can't do anymore. I ride elephants, I skate, I dance, I do all of these things, which my
You're very
quality of
active.
life is no longer. I'm depressed. I mean, I stay in the bed. He has to help me get dressed in the morning.
I see that you're asking this court for $200,000 for pain and suffering. Tell me about that.
Well, because I can no longer do the things I enjoy, I don't take care of my family anymore. I can't cook, I can't clean, I can barely dress.
How do you fix your hair?
My husband, it's a wig. He know how to put a wig on now. He's learned. Okay?
So, Mr. Richardson, you've been standing in the gap for your wife, right?
There ain't no question, Your Honor.
Tell me how this has affected you all's relationship.
My wife is depressed. She's not happy anymore. She was an outgoing person before. She used to like to travel. She used to like to go places and do things. She doesn't like to do that anymore. It's hard for her to get in the bed. It's hard for her to get out the bed.
Mr. Hickman, you see this is a big
unfortunate-
deal, right?
It's unfortunate that we're here under these circumstances and that you injured yourself, and I am sorry for that. But, you know...
Are you
this-
really sorry?
That's the first time he's ever said that, too.
Is it?
Yes.
How long have you owned this place?
16 years, Your Honor.
Did anyone ever tell you that they didn't go crazy for your nuts?
I did.
No, it's not my fault, okay? Her party was the main party, eating the peanuts and throwing them
No,
on
we
the
were
ground.
not.
So clearly that's
so
what
there
we
are
were
other,
worried
there are
about.
other
Yes,
people.
we were not. not.
There are
We're
other
not.
people.
You were.
No, we weren't.
Order in this court.
We were
Now,
not
I've
young.
said it one other time that you ought to address me. Mr.
Nobody
Richardson,
ever
did you
cleaned.
see anybody in your party throwing shells on the floor? You had to,
Yes, Your Honor.
right?
I did.
Everybody was throwing shells on the floor.
All of your entire party, their entire party, were joining in the atmosphere fun with the peanuts.
'Cause that's
eating them,
part of the
throwing them.
good time.
That's what we do.
But it was just,
Right?
if it was just the shells, Your Honor, then it would be a different story. But there were peanuts. When I hit the ground, there were peanuts on the ground also.
I brought an exhibit to show you today.
All right. Go on over and
And
show
Your Honor,
me.
before he does that, they should have receptacles for the nuts to go into.
But then it wouldn't be the same place. It would be a YMCA.
Your Honor, I'm stepping on these peanuts, and you can see how slippery it is. And it's not necessarily so much the peanut
Now
shell.
step on those nuts again. I want to see that. And you did that well. And you
Before
did
you-
submit a video
I
to the
submitted
court.
a video for you to let you know that about 5 minutes time how much oil is left over from these peanut shells and peanuts on the floor.
Okay, let's take a peek at it.
So if I take this shoe and I crush these shells, I'm going to give it about 5 minutes, and you'll see that this paper will be soaking wet with oil just from the residue and the peanuts. It's been 5 minutes, Your Honor. As you can see, this floor
Look
is
at it.
oily from the residue and the peanuts. They're responsible for this. This is what caused my wife to fall. This is what caused her to hurt herself.
So, Mr. Hickman, you see all that oil on that butcher paper?
I do.
That could make somebody slip, though, huh?
It could,
Yes.
but with the material on the floor, it doesn't make it that slippery.
There have been conga lines before at your place,
Every night, yes.
and people just go all around, snaking around the restaurant.
And she was actually being loud and disorderly, and we
I
had to
was
calm
not
her
loud
down.
and disorderly.
She was
I
being
was
loud and
laughing.
disorderly.
She was dancing on the peanut shells, and,
Put a little
and we had
rhythm
to
in it
keep
if
the
you know
walkway
the-
clear,
put a little
so we
rhythm.
had a server come over and tell her, and she goes, I'm the one paying for the party.
I was.
So, Miss Richardson,
Well,
I was paying for the party, and now he's going to pay for what has happened to me. This injury, I mean,
do you have to wear that brace
Yes.
all the time?
Yes, I do.
What happens when you go to sleep at night?
I sleep like this. So can you imagine? I kick him out the bed because we have a king-size bed. He has to sleep in the guest room. He can't enjoy me anymore. I mean, my life is over with him. But thank God he's a good man. He takes care of me.
He
has
seems like a
eight-
good man.
He is. He is.
Now, Mr. Richardson, you heard Mr. Hickman talk about how she was up dancing, having a good time. She was dancing, having a good time, right?
She was supposed to be dancing and having a good
After
time.
30 years?
It's not right. It wasn't, like I said, again, it was the oil
She was
from all
wearing
those
high
peanuts
heels,
on the floor
Your Honor.
that caused
She was
her to
wearing
slip.
open-toed high heels.
If water was
And
spilled
she
on
wore
the floor...
high heels and open-toed shoes.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
To a country theme bar, maybe something a little more appropriate.
Because
Flats
it
or,
matched
say,
my
boots.
outfit. It matched my outfit, I'm sorry.
Somebody's gonna go to jail today.
Nope.
Address your comments to me. Y'all are making me nuts. Mr. Hickman, you mentioned that she was wearing high-heeled shoes. Don't many people come in? I mean, women wear high-heeled shoes, right?
Yes.
And they probably have done it, and everything's fine. So when she wears these, apparently these aren't appropriate for her. But, you know, she wasn't even worried about the nuts because she was dancing on top of the nuts.
Now, Miss Richardson, your husband crushed those shells on the video with a high-heeled shoe. Is that the kind of shoe you had on?
It's almost the same shoe, except those were my black ones, which I
Okay.
can no longer wear anymore. All of my heels I cannot wear
Because
anymore.
of your hip injury?
Yes. I have to wear little flat shoes now.
I think I've heard enough. I think I'm ready to render my decision. Folks, in every personal injury case, the plaintiff, that is you all, the Richardsons, you have to prove that the defendant committed a wrong, that Mr. Hickman committed a wrong, that his wrong caused your injuries. You have proven today that there were peanuts on the floor, that there was oil on that floor, that there were shells on that floor, and that a waitress allowed you to, or encouraged you to come and do a conga line. You did the conga line, you slipped and fell, and had a terrible retirement experience.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hickman, you run a restaurant that people throw peanuts and shells on the floor. She should have known this. That's why she booked the place, because of that shtick. This had never happened to you before. And frankly, you've been making the point that it's obvious. People are here for our nuts.
People go nuts for our nuts, Your Honor.
Under the law, I've got to consider everybody's responsibility. But here's the problem. Your waitress started a conga line, and that's what tips the scales. Here I find that you are partially responsible for your injuries, but I'm going to find in your favor only because your waitress was involved. Mrs. Richardson, I find that you are 49% responsible for your injuries. You are suing for $325,000. 51% of that is $165,750. I'm making that award in that amount to you, taking into account your partial responsibilities for your injuries. I find in your favor in the amount of $165,750. That is my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Griffith, from the documents that you filed with this court, it's my understanding that you were injured while renting a property from Mr. Woods. You're asking this court to award you $50,000 for your past medical expenses, $20,000 for your future medical expenses, $200,000 for pain and suffering, for a total award of $270,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Woods, you believe that your place was safe, and if Miss Griffiths was just careful, she never would have been hurt. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's get into the legal sauce. What brought you to rent this place?
So, Michelle and I have been best friends since high school. We were inseparable, Your Honor, to the point where if you've seen one, you always seen the other. We even attended the same college. I don't go anywhere without her. And it was her 40th birthday coming up, and she had never had a surprise party before, so I wanted to do something big to help her get over the hill, you know?
Yes, ma'am.
So I rented this vacation home, and I was going to throw her a surprise party there.
Mr. Woods, tell me about your vacation home.
I owned the home for about 12 years with my ex-wife. The house is amazing. It's got an amazing view.
This is your house here?
Yeah, and
it's
you
a
can't
beautiful
tell.
place.
Thank you. I've been renting it out for about a year and a half, and it stays booked. There's usually a waiting period, and yeah, it's been a good deal for me for sure.
Miss Griffith, this was supposed to be this big birthday party. Tell me how you got hurt.
So, Your Honor, the party was supposed to take place around 8 o'clock that night, so it was already starting to get dark. So I had gotten everyone to come early, and I was getting the party ready, and I was watching for Michelle to pull up with two other of our friends. I seen headlights coming up towards the house, so I took off running ahead of them, and as I ran around the house, I ran straight through the sliding glass door. Yeah.
And that's how you did this?
Yes, Your Honor. It knocked me unconscious. But as I come to, you know, I could hear Michelle yelling and screaming my name, but I couldn't see her. I was completely out of it, Your Honor. There's glass everywhere. I can't find my glasses. They're broken. And there's blood, the blood. Your Honor, when I tell you there was so much blood, I've never seen that much blood in my life.
So you go face first through a glass door?
Yes, Your Honor. But the blood was unreal. So I go into panic mode at that point because I was knocked unconscious. I didn't know what was going on.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm looking down and I see cuts, as you can see, on my arms, my face. I had to get stitches on my forehead. It was not only embarrassing because of all the people that were there, and not only did I ruin my best friend's 40th birthday with all of this that happened, but I was hurt really bad.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, you know, when you get that blow to your face, it knocks off everything.
Yes.
Mr. Woods, you get somebody shredded by one of your glass doors at your property. Why isn't this your fault?
It's absolutely not my fault. And if I can tell you my recollection from that day, we did a walkthrough about 3 o'clock that afternoon.
Okay.
I know that there was drinking involved. I don't know how much.
So what?
We were doing the walkthrough. You saw that panel glass. That's where we went through it. And about 9 o'clock that night, I get a call from Michelle, frantically calling, and told me the story. And my initial reaction is, I'm sorry. I mean, I can see how it's
well, I
painful,
imagine that frightened you too. I mean, to have somebody cut up like this at your property has got to frighten you as the property owner.
Sure, I don't want anyone to get hurt at my property, but I've been renting this out for a year and a half. Never once has this ever occurred to anyone to run into a glass door, which who does that? Who's running at night to begin with?
Ms. Griffiths, you submitted an exhibit to this court.
Yes, Your Honor.
About how this happened and what the scene is.
Yes.
I want you to come over to the plasma and take me through this so I can understand exactly how this happened.
So, Your Honor, this area up here is where Michelle and our friends had parked, and I took off ahead of them. So I ran around the house this way, and when I came in through the back way here is when I ran straight into the door in this area.
And you were trying to warn the people in the house that the birthday girl was coming.
Yes, I wanted to get them ready for the big surprise. I gave them a big surprise, all right.
So when this glass hit you, that's a bloody mess right here inside the door.
Yes, Your Honor, it knocked me unconscious.
You may go back to the podium, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Woods, this isn't supposed to happen.
I absolutely agree it shouldn't have happened. You shouldn't be running right into panes of glass that you already
You shouldn't be so cheap and
You've
replace
seen
it like you're supposed to.
This is the most frivolous lawsuit I've ever heard in my life.
I would not have been hurt, Your Honor.
I didn't make her run into the door. I didn't make her run into the door.
You didn't replace
You didn't spend the money to have
Make
it
her run into the door.
replaced.
Talk to me.
You didn't replace it with the right glass.
So, Ms. Griffiths, you submitted this photograph, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
I see here that there are lights on. Were there lights on when you ran through the glass?
Yes, Your Honor. The glare from the inside and not enough lighting on the outside, and I didn't see that it was shut, Your Honor. I thought it was open.
So it's difficult to tell from this photograph, but on the right corner, I have floodlights that are set up. How do you not see inside of a window that there's obviously lights and there's glare? Again, I didn't make her run through the door. This is ridiculous and it's frivolous, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
No, ashamed of myself? Do you see my face? You should be ashamed that I look like this because of you.
You went on a walkthrough before the party got started.
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you see this door?
Yes, Your Honor, and I thought the door was open when I ran into it.
There's light on the inside. You walked past that glass earlier. Why isn't this your fault?
Because of a prior incident, the glass had been broken, and he replaced it with cheap glass instead of the tempered safety glass that he should have replaced it with.
So you believe he had the wrong glass in the window?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, you said he had replaced it. Had you replaced this glass?
I had replaced the glass, and I just think it's kind of funny or ironic. You know so much about glass.
So before this happened, you replaced the glass?
I did.
And you replaced the glass with what? Obviously
the
glass, but a different kind of glass?
It was.
The cheap
I didn't
glass,
have
Your
to
Honor.
use
It was the cheap glass.
the
It wasn't the
tempered
appropriate glass.
I didn't have to use it. A fella came out about a month ago to change the glass, and I went with his recommendation.
So you used the cheaper glass?
I can't recall the price of what the glass was off the cuff.
Your Honor, I believe that if Mr. Woods would have used the correct glass, I would not be standing before you looking like a monster today.
To better understand glass and the differences in glass, this court has consulted a glass expert and sculptor, Mr. Mark Wentz. Sheriff, will you get Mr. Wentz?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Wentz, you are a glass expert, right?
Yes.
Tell us about glass.
So there's all kinds of different glass: tempered, plate glass, fused glass, cast glass, blown glass.
Tell us the difference between tempered glass and other glass.
Tempered glass is cooled rapidly. So when it's broke, it crumbles into uniform, small, non-abrasive little pieces instead of a sharp shard, which will come from a plate glass. All your windows are going to be plate glass, and any door, sliding glass door, coffee table, is a stronger glass, and it should be tempered.
So if you're going to have a home and put glass in the door, it needs to be tempered glass always?
Always.
What's the difference upon impact between standard glass and tempered glass?
In my 20 years, I've never had more than a paper cut with tempered. So I'm going to demonstrate the difference of what happens.
This is standard glass or plate glass?
This is plate glass or standard glass.
Okay.
So here we go.
Yep.
So you can see how sharp this would be and how much damage it would do to any soft tissue or anything.
That's angry glass.
Yeah.
So those sharp pieces are what shredded your skin and your face and your arm?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have the tempered glass, which is made a lot stronger and can take an impact.
Okay.
So here we go. So you can see it crumbles into smaller, non-sharp pieces.
So when it crumbles like that, you're less likely to be cut?
You're not going to get cut. The most you'll get is a paper cut because there's no jagged edges.
Mr. Woods, do you see that had you used tempered glass, this would have been a very different outcome?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I can see that running at night at 9 o'clock lets things like this even happen.
Just spending that little bit of extra money could have kept me from being
Talk to me.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You are released. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Miss Griffith, that must make you cringe when you know this could have been avoided with tempered glass.
It does, Your Honor.
Now you've got $50,000 in medical bills, and here we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor.
What has that been like, the financial burden? How are you going to pay these bills?
Your Honor, it's been really hard. All of my bills are behind. I've not been able to work, and it's really been a struggle. You know, it's even hard to buy groceries at this point because there's no money coming in.
Mr. Woods, do you see that this is not only a game changer, this is potentially a backbreaker for Miss Griffith?
It's an absolute game changer. But it's not my fault.
Yes,
I didn't run into the glass. She ran into the glass.
But it's your glass.
So does that then make me responsible for every single thing that happens in that house?
You raise a good point. For every landowner, just because someone's hurt on your property doesn't mean you're automatically responsible. Now, where the landowner had certain choices as to make something safer or not, then it can be another issue. Miss Griffith, you brought Miss Reyes with you. She's the birthday girl why you had this whole party, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Reyes, will you rise and come to the podium?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, this was your birthday celebration, right?
Yes, Your Honor. It was my 40th, and unbeknownst to me, Jacqueline threw me a surprise party.
Well, tell me what you saw.
We could see her run straight into the glass. Everything shattered. She let out this ear-splitting scream. I rushed over to her, and I mean, there was just blood everywhere. I thought for a moment she was dead.
I know this was frightening for you, too, to watch this, see your friend in that situation. Who called Mr. Woods?
I called him. I called him after we got to the emergency room, and I was telling him that there was an accident and that she was seriously injured. And he just kind of, like he was saying all the right things, but really had a very careless attitude and just wanted to get me off the phone.
Mr. Woods, you remember that call?
Absolutely.
So what was your response?
I was horrified that it would happen to anyone, let alone on one of my properties. I made that very clear on the phone. Let me speak to this about far safety and this accusation that I don't care. I have fire extinguishers in just about every room. I have the home camera that with the app that they know they could access anytime they want. And so I've taken every precaution to make it the safest house in the neighborhood.
Safety glass, Your Honor.
While this might make me feel better about you caring for your property generally, this has nothing to do with safety glass versus standard glass.
Absolutely.
I've heard everything I need to hear to render a decision in this case, and I'm ready, so let's do it.
Yes.
The plaintiff has a burden of proving three things. You got to prove that Mr. Woods was wrong, got to prove that his wrong caused your injuries. Here, you've put up the evidence, real simple evidence, that Mr. Woods did not use the proper glass.
Yes.
You were excited about the party. You thought the door was open. Your friend had come. The big bash and surprise were about to begin. You run through this glass door. It shreds your face and your arms and shreds your life. Mr. Woods, you believe this is also very simple. She ran through the glass and hurt herself. And you put her on notice earlier that this is a glass door if you can't look at it and see that it is. It's right here. You open it and walk through. If you run through it, you get hurt. You believe because of that common sense, it's her fault. Well, this case, I love this case because it requires me to go back to law school. There are several legal principles that it sheds light on. The first is the duty of care. As a landowner, you're supposed to take reasonable measures to protect your guests. Hands down, Miss Griffith, you have proven that Mr. Woods was wrong. He did not use the proper glass. You would have had at most a bruised nose. The other legal principle is you have a duty of care. You've got to be careful in walking through doors to make sure that they're open. In putting the glass in, he's got to anticipate proper use of the door. The other legal principle is open and obvious danger. A glass door is what it is. You knew it from earlier. Here, I find that you both were responsible for your injuries. And under the law, when that happens, the defendant must win. And despite how I feel about this and your attitude and how severe your injuries are, I must find for the defendant and against the plaintiff, and that is my final verdict. This matter is adjourned.